Welcome back to the Exago video training series. Today we'll be creating a new Crosstab report, which will allow us to expand our data vertically and horizontally. To begin, let's select Crosstab report from our list of available report types. We can see this opens the Crosstab wizard, which may look similar to the advanced report wizard we saw earlier on. We'll give this Crosstab a name and select a folder for it to live in, and optionally include a description. Clicking Next opens the Categories tab, where we decide what data will be available to us on the report. For this Crosstab, we'd like to see various product sales over time, so let's add categories, products, orders, and order detail. We'll hit Next again, which will bring us to our Filters tab. For now, we're not going to include any filters on this report, but be sure to check out our segment on filters for more information there. Hitting Next once more brings us to the Layout tab. We can see data fields on the left, and on the right is where we'll begin to construct the actual Crosstab. Our Crosstab can expand in both the X and Y direction, and our row header source is where we'll define how that data expands vertically. Since we want to see product sales, let's populate the rows of our Crosstab with product names. Notice the interactive preview below begins to populate with dummy values, so I have an idea of what the final output will be. I may want to see products grouped by their respective categories. To do so, I'll add category name to my row header source and use the arrows on the right to make it my highest level of grouping for rows. Next, we have our column header source, where we choose how our data will expand horizontally. I'd like to show product sales for each month as well as for each year. We have access to the order date field, and if we recall from our formulas discussion, we can use date functions to get the month and year from those dates. First, we'll add order date to our column headers, and then we'll click the f of x icon located here. This opens our formula editor, and here we'll wrap our order date in the month function Now we'll show one column for each month. Looking at the preview below, we can see the label for these columns still says order date. By selecting the paper icon here, we have the ability to change that label to say month. We can also change how the column will be sorted, and since we know these columns will show month numbers, let's set that sort to be numeric. We have our month numbers being displayed, but let's add the year above the months as well. We'll first add our order date field again, navigate to our formula editor, and this time use the year function. We'll again change that label to say year, and modify the sort to be numeric. Finally, we'll push this row up one, so the years appear above their respective months. Next, we need a field for our tabulation, or the intersection between our rows and columns. I'll add the revenue field. And selecting the paper icon here, we can ensure that our tabulation method is set to sum. To add some totals to the Crosstab, we can select our options icon and add grand totals for both our rows and columns here. In order to add intermediate totals for each year, I can select my year options and set the yearly total to display here. I can now do the same for my category totals as well. To give our crosstabs some aesthetic appeal, we can apply a theme using the drop-down here. At this point, we can hit Finish to exit the Crosstab wizard. Should we need to go back in and make any changes, we can do so by double-clicking the Crosstab here. When executed, Crosstabs will attempt to reformat to fit into single-page PDF format by default. Navigating into our Report Options cogwheel and digging into the Report Viewer options, we can uncheck Simulate PDF, which will ensure our Crosstab has enough room when exporting to HTML. Executing this report, we can see our categories and their respective products populating our rows, and the months of each year populating our columns. In our tabulation, we can see the revenue generated for any given product for that month. We can also see subtotals for both categories and years, as well as grand totals along the bottom and right-hand sides. This concludes our discussion on crosstabs. Be sure to check out our segments on charting and dashboards, and as always, happy reporting.